11th December, Bhagavad Gita Overview, 7.17 onwards. We'll start with our prayers. Introduction, page number 1. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we saw in the Bhagavad Gita, we started the next section, next section of chapter 7. Name of the chapter? Does anyone remember? Krishna begins Bhakti Yoga, and the acronym is head. First 3 verses, Krishna emphasizes that Bhakti Yoga begins with Shravan, that is hearing, and then he teaches Arjuna how to experience the presence of Krishna everywhere, even in the battlefield. That is the next 4th verse up to the 12th verse. And then A of head is accept or reject. That is 4 types of people who accept Krishna and 4 types of people who reject Krishna. And then the next 10 verses, Krishna teaches that even those who accept God, sometimes they pay their worship. They give their worship to demigods or to the impersonal Brahman. Only to the Brahma Jyoti aspect of Krishna. Not the complete aspect of Bhagwan, but only the Brahma Jyoti or demigods. So the next 10 verses is that. So we are halfway through this, accept or reject. I'll be reading the translations again from verse 13 onwards. So if God can be perceived everywhere and His existence is so strikingly obvious, why is there wholesale denial of Him? Resisting forceful compliance, Krishna endows each entity with free will to fly their own plane and make their own decisions, to where to repose their faith. No, I'm just reading a whole gist of 13 to 19. He describes 4 types of people who reject God due to preoccupation in worldly pursuits, and then conversely he describes 4 types of people who accept God under different degrees. There are 4 levels of devotees that he mentions there again. And then he says that the 4th person, in conclusion, out of the 4 that he accept Krishna, he gives who is the best, and then he says that that soul is very rare. Whereas the other 3 who have some motivations to accept God eventually do come to the pure devotee platform, and that platform is very rare. That's what he says. That level of spiritual purity is very rare. So verse number 13, chapter 7, verse number 13, translation. Deluded by the 3 modes, goodness, passion and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Now one small diversion, 3 modes of material nature, Krishna has not emphasized it yet till the 7th chapter. 7 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is over, and he has only mentioned the 3 modes. Once in 2nd chapter, once again somewhere in between, and now again he is saying that it's difficult for people to see his existence so obviously is because of being deluded by these 3 modes of material nature. That will be emphasized in chapter 16 and 17 when we come to those chapters. Then he says that this divine energy of mine, this Maya, which consists of 3 ropes, that is goodness, passion and ignorance, 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. In the next verse he says this, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So then if it's that easy, why are people, even learned people, not surrendering to Krishna? Then he says verse number 15, I'm reading the translation. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, number 1. Number 2, who are lowest amongst mankind. Number 3, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion. Number 4, who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So these 4 types of people, they are not able to surrender unto Krishna. Even though they might be in leading positions in the society, but they are not able to surrender unto Krishna because of 4 things. Number 1 category is grossly foolish. I told you that our normal society or our life functions on 4 wheels. It's like a car functioning on 4 wheels. Social, we have some physical needs. This gross body needs, food, clothing, shelter, that's physical needs. Then there's emotional needs, and then there's intellectual needs, and then there's a spiritual need. This Mudha, this number 1 person, he takes care of only 3. Intellectual, mental, bodily, and forgets the spiritual. Just at the pretext of saying that I am busy doing only these 3. That is a grossly foolish person. Number 2, lowest among mankind is who? In the 4 lakh species of human beings, Nara Adhama. In Nara, in human beings, he is the lowest. There are 4 lakh species of human beings. In that, there are many categories who are extremely they're living animals, they're living a life like animals. Either they're living in the city, their culture is like animals. They don't have a spiritual culture in their life. They don't have a spiritual guidance in their life. You see sometimes households where there is no altar in the house, and the life is just, the house also is so unclean. It's just like a lodging boarding, Basically, it's just like a hotel. There's just some food cooked somehow. Most of the time it's bought from outside. The whole environment is very animalistic. So that is called Naradhama. So here when Prabhupada talks about lowest of mankind, doesn't mean only the tribals and Adivasis in the jungle. Sometimes even they have better spiritual culture or have some God consciousness. Those who don't have any type of God consciousness, they are there. Number 3, he says that these people are scientists. 7.15. Yeah, 1.5. Yeah. These people can be scientists in the society. They can be very learned people. And their learning, their education is stolen by Maya. That means that with this education, they simply decry the presence of God. They apply all their education into proving how God does not exist. And that's why they can never be able to approach or surrender to Krishna. And the last class of Dushkriti or miscreants is those who are on purpose atheists. They know that God exists, they know that we are supposed to surrender, but they don't want to. They are asurs. Okay, so then 4 kinds of people who do not surrender. And the last time we stopped at discussing 4 types of people who do surrender. 7.16 is what I am going to read. Are we there? 7.16. Chapter 7, verse 16. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. So we discussed why Krishna is calling these people pious. Because they chose to come to Krishna. That itself is piety. Or otherwise, when a person is in need of wealth, he could gamble, he could rob, he could just by hook or crook get some money. But here he chooses to serve God, come and approach God. A person who's distressed can get into alcoholism, get into so many negative habits, drugs. There are so many options to degrade. But he chooses to run to God, his Supreme Father. Right? So that's why these people are called pious. And what are these 4 types? The distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Yeah. And then we were reading, what is pure devotional service? Remember? Anyabhilashita Shunya. There's a small, we'll begin from there, then we won't start from 17 onwards. We'll begin from that shloka. It's there in your purport. It's written by Rupa Goswami. Yeah. What is pure devotional service? Anyabhilashita Shunyam. Did you find it? Jnana karmadena vratam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhakti uttama. What is uttam bhakti? What is pure devotional service? What is the highest devotional service? Can you all read the translation?
One should render transcendent loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna without desire for material profit or gain, to future activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service.
Right. So here Prabhupada is writing that these 4, the 4th person there, devotion has to be unmotivated, without any ulterior motives. Means you don't have something that you want in devotion. You're simply giving because you love Krishna, right? And you want to give to Krishna. That is pure devotional service. So here, 4 types of people who do not surrender, 4 types of people who surrender. Then there are distressed people who turn to Krishna for relief due to some sickness, or a loved person is not doing well, or something like that. Sometimes a fatal loss.
Due to reversals.
Yeah, due to reversals in life, ups and downs in life, they come to Krishna for relief, right? And then there are the wealth wanters who want wealth. We were describing Dhruv Maharaj last Tuesday, how he wanted wealth, he wanted kingdom. Now wealth doesn't only mean it could be a good wife, a good husband. Yeah. And that comes under, something which is profitable to you. Yeah. And then that could be success in business, family affairs, etc. That is wealth. Right? And then inquisitive, he is just curious. Suta Goswami, he was just curious to know about God. Yeah. He wants to know, he wants knowledge. And then finally there is wise, who want perfection. So they turn towards Krishna for self-realization and God realization. So that is a Jnani. Artho Jigyasu Artharti Jnani Cha Bharatashava. 4 people.
You're not given the...
Suta Goswami says Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there are 2 conversations you will see. One between Suta Goswami and an assembly of sages in Naimisharanya. And then another dialogue is between Sukdev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. What happens is, Srimad Bhagavatam begins with Suta Goswami talking on how Vedvyas wrote this Amal Puran. And this is an original dialogue which he heard when Sukdev Goswami was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. So when Parikshit Maharaj was sitting and hearing, Suta Goswami was also there in the audience. So that's how he was hearing everything. That's so you in Srimad Bhagavatam. Sometimes it's confusing, Sometimes you see Suta Goswami speaking. Sometimes you see Parikshit Maharaj asking a question. So the original thing is, the original Bhagavatam was spoken by Sukdev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and Suta Goswami is in the audience and he is repeating it in the Naimisharanya forest to the other sages. So these are the two dialogues, two main dialogues, and then there are so many more dialogues. So now we'll go to the next verse where Krishna mentions who is the best of the four people who surrender unto him. So we understood who are the four. Now out of these four, Krishna picks out one. That's in verse 17. Please repeat after me. Tesham jnani nityayukta eka bhaktir vishishyate priyo hi jnani notyartham aham sacha mama priyaha. Translation together. Of these, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. I'm reading the purport. Free from all contaminations of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. Right? Now here Krishna is mentioning, out of these four, this last one is one who I like the best. But Prabhupada is saying that doesn't mean the other three have to be distressed. That means they will come eventually to the platform of pure devotional service. Next verse. Udara sarva evaite Jnani tvatmaiva me matam Asthitah sahi yuktatma Mame vanuttamam gatim. Translation. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. So here he says, again he is not letting down the other three. He is saying that they are magnanimous souls, they are udara. That means they are great souls, they are Mahatmas. Sometimes udara is also called as Mahatma, means they are doing a great endeavor by approaching their original father rather than seeking out other options. That's why these are magnanimous souls. I'm reading the purport. It is not that devotees who are less complete in knowledge are not dear to the Lord. Prabhupada is writing this very clearly. He says, the Lord says that they are all magnanimous, because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a Mahatma or great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there's an exchange of affection. Just the other day we were discussing, and Premnidhi Prabhu was mentioning that if your child is coming to you for something, would you reject your child? If you had a child who was outrightly ungrateful, doesn't come to you for anything. There's a child who's coming to you out of love. There's a child who's coming because kuch kaam hai. Who is better? Obviously this first person is the best. That's what Krishna is saying, this first person is the best. And even those who are coming to you because of something, still it's okay, they are your children. You are accepting them rather than they not coming to you at all. Right? So there is some exchange of affection. That's what Prabhupada is writing here. Out of affection they ask the Lord for some material benefit. And when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. Can you imagine? You get also and still you have double profit, There's an encouragement. Krishna, along with giving you what you want, what does he do? There is this, Alfred Ford? Yeah, Amrish Prabhu. He is a disciple of Prabhupada. The Ford company, he owns it, Alfred Ford. And his initiator name is Amrish Prabhu. he is helping us, he's helping ISKCON build the huge temple in Mayapur, the temple of Vedic Planetarium. So he was saying once, that I have so much money, I have everything that I want, I have a wonderful wife, he has a very beautiful and nice daughter, Amrita, and it's so, he's saying my life is perfect, I can enjoy so much, and what has Krishna done? He's stolen away my desire to enjoy. Yeah. I had everything. And what has Krishna done? He's cursed me. He's taken away this desire to enjoy. So what I have left with is only devotional service. Only my affection to Prabhupada and only my affection to devotees, and that's all I'm doing with my wealth. That's all I can do. I can only give and spend it for devotional service. So this is what Krishna does. You have to be very careful. And you ask him what he'll do, he'll give you very nicely, and then when you get it, you feel that, it's okay, that's what happened to Dhruv Maharaj. After 6 months of so much tapasya, still go to Krishna. It's not that he's going to trick you, he's going to give you what you want. Dhruv Maharaj was not promised, in fact he was given Dhruv Tara. You know what is Dhruv Tara? The pole star. The pole star that we see is actually a realm which isn't even bigger than our universe. And Dhruv Maharaj is the king of that whole realm. It's a very different realm. It's not under this material world and not outside also. It's a very beautiful place which was especially created for Dhruv. And then when Dhruv Maharaj got it, what happened? He had darshan of the Lord. What did he say? There's a beautiful verse, I don't remember what the exact verse, but the translation is, he says that I was looking for pieces of glass and I have found a rare diamond. What does he compare pieces of glass to? That Dhruv Tara, he's saying that is that realm, which is so huge, is so beautiful. And what did he have to do for that? Just ask Krishna, just ask your father, That's all he did. When he got it, he said that it's only pieces of glass. And what I've really got is that darshan of the Supreme Lord. That is a rare diamond. And he tells Krishna, I don't want it. Because I feel that if I get that, that will take me away from your devotional service. And I don't want it. But Krishna says, no, I've already given it to you. Now you have to take it. Yeah. So here what does the Lord do? You advance in devotional service even when you get something from Krishna. So that is the magnanimity of the Lord. But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear, as this verse says, to the Lord, because his only purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. There is one verse in 9th chapter, verse 27. I'm sure all of you all must have heard it at least once. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. What does Krishna ask us? A fruit, a flower. What is patram? Patram is a leaf. Pushpam is flower. Phalam is fruit. Toyam is water. He says, you simply give me a leaf, a flower, a fruit or some water. Imagine somebody like, the president or Obama comes to your house and you give him a leaf, a flower, a fruit and water. What will happen?
Never come again.
He never come again? What kind of, this is how you treat your guest? That's like a menial thing. Even a beggar can give the Supreme Lord. You have to pay for a flower. You can just break a flower and offer it to Krishna. You can just break a leaf and offer. Water is like so abundantly available. This is what he's asking of us. And he says you give it with love and devotion. So what he wants is not objects. He just wants our love and devotion. Can you imagine if you simply have your spouse? I don't want anything from you. I simply want your love and devotion. What an amazing relationship. There's no expectations. That's such a light, such a relief then, life is. Isn't it? This is what Krishna wants. It sounds like that, but that's what Krishna wants. That's why spiritual world is the best place. Because there are no expectations there. There's only love and devotion. That's it.
But that's okay with the God, relation with the God, but not with the spouse.
Try it. Try it one day. We don't give it thinking we'll be exploited. That's the fear. The fear is not in giving. The fear is thinking that if I give every day, just the other day in the gratitude class, we had our gratitude class, we were discussing this. And there was this Mataji, Rajleela Mataji, she was telling us that there was this lady who would, press her husband's feet for 7 years every day in the night. So there was one Mataji who was sitting in front of her. I was also thinking the same thing in my head. Ki fir to roz karna padega, And then she said that after 7 years, one day she got to know that her husband is dead. So the only thing she had left was that, the memory that I did everything that I could for my husband. So what do we want? We just want that, we live with the fear of exploitation and actually nothing happens. We don't get exploited. Only our expectations are exploiting us. So I know I'm diverting a little bit. So Supreme Lord is not like that, He just wants this, doesn't want anyone else. And that's why He's very pleased with this person who's come with, no expectation from me. He just wants to serve me and love me. That's it. So here, such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. Similarly, so when the Supreme Lord recognizes this feeling from the heart, He feels the same for that person. He says that even the Lord is very fond of His devotee, cannot be separated from him. And there's this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam which says, the devotees are always in my heart and I am always in the hearts of the devotees. The devotee does not know anything beyond me and I also cannot forget the devotee. There is very intimate relationship between me and the pure devotees. Pure devotees in full knowledge are never out of spiritual touch. Therefore, they are very much dear to me. So this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam is kind of a detailed explanation of what Krishna tells here in only one sentence. Here he says this only in one sentence, ki that person is just like my own self. He is very dear to me. That's it. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, he goes into more detail of explaining what this fourth kind of person means to me. He's everything for me. And I am everything for that devotee. So we understand these four. And what about the other three? That is explained. What will happen to these other three is explained in the 19th verse. Bahunam janmanam ante Jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvam niti Samahatma sudurlabha. Translation. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So again, this rare soul, what about the others? Other three? After Bahunam Janmanam, after many births, they will come to this status of pure devotional service. That's not that everything will be taken away from them. They are also promised perfection. So, basically, the moral of this entire section between 13 to 19 of accept and reject is four kinds of people who do not surrender to Krishna. Out of the four who surrender to Krishna, the fourth person is the best because he is unmotivated, and then he doesn't have any selfish motive to come to Krishna. And Krishna says, even if you have a selfish motive, still come. There's a Bhagavatam shloka, akamo sarva kamo va.
The first three type of people have to take rebirth in the very particular lifetime. They can't.
Unless they meet a devotee.
So then they become a jnani after meeting a devotee.
After meeting a devotee, there's a shortcut. They're simply seeking. It will take some time. And in fact, we've been here like almost eternally. In the material world, we've taken millions of births. If it just takes a few more births to reach perfection, then what you're getting in return is so much more than even if you take little births, there's no harm. You're simply getting closer to Krishna. And the minimum thing you get is at least a human birth. You won't fall down again to, a lower species. Because then you're stuck for lifetimes.
But you're saying that jnanis are rare,
Very rare.
So then you're stuck with only the three.
Yeah, but then those persons also will come to that. And that's very rare that he's saying that, so that's why even if you're coming with some agenda in your mind, it's still okay. Because you're going to get that perfection. And sometimes devotees come and they feel so guilty, but I asked Krishna something today in my prayers. There was this kind of thing that I was so tormented about, and I wanted it that badly. But it's okay. There's some exchange of affection. Right? So we start our next section. I'll just check if there's something else I've left out. Verses 20 to 30. So here Arjuna has a thing in his mind. He feels that why do everyone have to know Vasudev Sarvamiti? There are so many devtas. There is this impersonal Brahma Jyoti who lot of people do surrender. What is the harm in surrendering to demigods? What happens when someone surrenders to demigods? What happens when someone surrenders to the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, impersonal Brahman? What happens? So we'll see that effulgence, that's the light emanating from Krishna's personal body. So what we'll do is we'll go through verses 20 to 30 as our usual format, and then we come back to verse 20. Can we start? Kame ste rita gyanaha Rita gyana prapadyante anya devataha tam tam niyamamasthaya prakritya niyataha svaya. Translation: those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods, and who follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. 21st verse. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayarchitumicchati tasya tasyachalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. Translation: I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Oh, verse 22. Sataya shraddhaya yuktas tasya radhanamihate labhate cha tatah kaman mayaiva vihitan hitan. Translation: endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Verse 23. Antavattu phalam tesham. Tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. Translation: men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are temporary.
Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods,
but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme abode. Okay. 24th. Avyaktam yaktimapannam manyate mama buddhayah param bhavam majananto mama vyayam anuttamam. Translation: Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small intelligence, not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. 25th verse. Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudhoyam nabhijanati loko mamajam avyayam. Translation. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. 26th verse. Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjuna bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Translation.
O Arjun, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows.
27th verse. Ichha dvesha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. Translation.
O son of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate.
28th verse. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavratah. Translation. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. Jara marana mokshaya mama shritya yatanti te te brahma tadviduh kritsnam adhyatmam karma chakhilam. Translation. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. 30th verse, the last one. Sadhi bhutadhi daivam mam sadhi yagyam cha ye viduhu prayana kale pichamam te viduryukta chetasah. Translation. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord,
to be the governing principle of material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death.
Right. So we'll start from verse 20th onwards. So after describing 4 types of people who surrender unto me, So Krishna says, why only, Arjun thinks, why only you? Why not anyone else? Why not the demigods? What about the impersonal Brahman? So here we start with Krishna describing in these verses 20 to 23. There are 4 verses. Verse 20, 21, 22, 23. 4 verses. He summarizes the entire demigod worship in this 4 verses. Okay, so I'll just put that up. 24 onwards is impersonal Brahman. Few questions we will see. Who are demigods? Please read the questions on the board. From 20th verse to 23rd, we'll be discussing who are demigods. Do they really exist? Tattvas. There are 4 tattvas. We'll be discussing tattvas. It's a little bit of... we did this in Journey of Self-Discovery. With just a little recap as to understand what is the position of the demigods and what is the position of Krishna, and then why is demigod worship mentioned in the Vedas if Krishna is so serious about it. 20th verse. I'm reading only translations of all the 4 verses. First verse is the 20th one. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires. So those who worship the demigods, it's for material desires. Surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Natures means 3 modes, belonging to whichever mode they belong to, they worship in that particular manner. I'll be elaborating that further when we come to who are demigods, and then when we come to this portion. Next verse, Krishna mentions, I am in everyone's heart as the super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. So now we understand the position here. The demigods themselves are not able to induce faith in their worshippers. Who does it? Krishna. Demigods, of course, have their own domain of control. Like for instance, sun god. He controls the electricity in the universe. Which portion of which universe will get light now, and then he transports himself to another realm of the world. That's why they are day and nights. Correct? So he also has a limited control. We understand. Otherwise everything would be day. The minute there is night, that means there is no control of the sun anymore. So he also has limited control. Correct? So they have their domains of control. What they cannot control is our heart, our faith. You understand? This domain is out of their reach. So who does it then? If you see, there are so many demigod worshippers and they do it with so much faith. Now we understand by this verse that this faith is actually induced by Krishna himself in our heart, who's sitting as Paramatma. Next verse, verse number 22. Endowed with such a faith, he endeavors to worship a particular demigod and obtains his desires. Right? Now this demigod, each one has their quota of how much they can give. And if that quota is out of my good karma, no matter who I worship, I'm not going to get it. Get this? If it's there in my quota, I will get it. Even the demigods have a limit to how much they can give. So he obtains his desires, but actually who are they getting it from? Krishna. But in actuality, these benefits are bestowed by me alone. Last verse, verse number 23. Finally, Krishna sums it all up. He says, men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are... Why? Why the demigods limited and temporary? When we discuss who are demigods, we will understand this. Those who worship demigods go to the planets of the demigods, and my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet, unperishable planet, eternal planet. So you can guess, what do you want? You want limited temporary fruits or you want eternal fruits? Number 1, who are the demigods? Anyone? What did we learn in Journey of Self-Discovery? Do you remember? Who are the demigods? They are Jiva Tattvas, Ganesha, Durga. Basically, they are administrative heads in the universe. Portfolios, exactly. Now, right now, in a house, to run one house, we need how many servants? I think unlimited will not be enough. Yeah. We need so many of them. Each one of them has a specific profile. Someone is there only to open the door. Kidding. Yeah. Everyone has a specific job to do. There's a cook, there's a general person who does only the top cleaning, and then different profiles that we give to the servants in the house. Correct? Is that fine? Imagine to run this entire universe. There are 33 crore demigods. Each one having a different profile. Each one having their own cabinet, and there are many assistants under them also. Like Indra has his clouds. He has his different personal assistants doing, again, detailed departmental work. Right? Is that okay? So there is, we know only the main 8 principal deities, I think. We just know there is Lord Ganesha is there, Indra, Chandra, Vayu. The major gross elements who are controlling, we know them. But there are 33 crore demigods, I think in India at least we know more than what they know abroad. The Shani Dev, who takes care of our bad karmas. No one wants him. So these are the departmental heads. Like if in a... Sorry? He does have a profile. I am not sure what exactly. I think he gives strength.
Yeah, but
Strength.
when he comes in the demigod category.
Yes. He's a Jiva Tattva, so he's demigod. Huh? Who are demigods? They are administrative heads. Just like there's an analogy used of a company, there is one CEO and then there are so many managers. There's one R&D department and there's a finance department and there is so many departments, purchase, sales, marketing. Got it? So all of them are working under this one CEO. The CEO is Krishna. 33 crore demigods are the posts which they are taking care of. Question number 2, do they really exist? Yeah, otherwise how will the entire universe run? People think that demigods, especially when they see the forms, 4-handed Indra, and then when you see, sitting on an Airavat, it sounds like mythology. But it's as basic as, if there's no tap water in your tap at home, who do you call? The plumber. The plumber says, "Pani nahi hai, kahan se aayega?" No, there's a BMC, there's a municipal cooperator, there's a head, a person who's in charge of this entire water running throughout our city. There's one person in charge of it. Right? Like if you go to a mall and when you see, just put your hand under the tap and there's water flowing out. But there's been one person, an engineer who's actually done this whole system. Because if it gets spoiled, you have to call a person. It doesn't get repaired automatically. So there are demigods, administrative heads who are in charge of all portfolios throughout the 3 worlds. Heavenly, earthly and hellish. Everyone has their own domain of control. Okay? So now we come to tattvas. How do we understand the demigods? Where do they fall? Now a king, there's an analogy, Prabhupada writes that, he says that there's a king. When you imagine a king, how do you imagine him? There's his royal court, there's wife, it's compulsory. Every king must have a queen. Yeah, queen is compulsory, otherwise he's a prince. King becomes a king when there's a queen. I'm not joking, really. You cannot become a king unless you're married. So then, there's a queen, because someone has to understand that the female crowd has to be equality. Yeah. So then it's possible when there's a queen. And then there is, the whole entourage, there's the army, there is the personal ministers, there's a personal cabinet, then there is, the other soldiers and the subjects. The subjects are so many compared to the people in the main palace. So that's a king. If the king is alone, can you call him a king? I mean, it's incomplete. When you imagine a king, it has to be complete with all these aspects. So same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is never alone. He exists with all these aspects. Aspect of a queen, so it's like his personal energy. The king has his own powers, his own personal powers, which he uses only for particular domain. And then he delegates to his personal ministers, right, his personal people, and then there are subjects that he rules over. So the main king is like Vishnu Tattva. I'm writing Tattva. Tattva is the Lord existing with He and His unlimited forms, the avatars that we call. There is Ram, Varaha, Narsimha, Vaman, so many of them. There are unlimited forms in the Vaikuntha planets. Right? All that belong to Vishnu Tattva. All of them exist with all opulence of the Supreme Lord. Just because Narsimha is displaying power, he displays only the power of opulence, and he came for just like a day. He was there just for a day. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have other attributes. Does have of the Supreme Lord. But he came for a specific Leela. Specific reason, specific Leela. So his unlimited forms, they are called Vishnu Tattva. And then the queen aspect of the Lord is Shakti Tattva. Radharani, when Ram comes, there is Sita, and there is Narayan, there is Lakshmi. They generally addressed before the Lord. Sita Ram, Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan. That's the first personal form, personal energy of the Lord, wife of the Lord. And then there is the gopis are also in. Some are in Shakti, some are in Jiva. The Ashtasakhis are in Shakti Tattva. The Ashtasakhis, the first 8. And everyone has different functions to perform. It's how they serve Krishna, their service is different. Jiva?
The demigods.
All the all 110,000 tip of the hair, the subjects whom Krishna rules over, that is the Jiva Tattva. They are innumerable in number. Like the subjects, they are always many, right? So Krishna rules over them. These are limited, Krishna is unlimited. And then there is a different profile, a different Tattva called Shambhu Tattva. He is not ordinary like Jiva. He is not as powerful as Vishnu Tattva. So he has a separate profile. He has a particular function to perform. He is not counted among the demigods. And neither is Durga counted among the demigods. Just like milk, due to some sour element turns into curd. Same way, if milk is compared to Krishna, there is a sour element of material energy. Material energy mixed with Vishnu is Shambhu. So Shivji has a lot of powers. At the same time, he is not as equal as the Supreme Lord. Where does Brahma fit in? After?
I send you a message.
I will.
Demigod.
Reading this now?
Yeah, sure. Where does Brahma fit in? Lord Brahma. Is he Vishnu Tattva? Shakti? Shambhu? Shambhu में तो एक ही है शिवजी और कोई नहीं है. So then he has to fall under Jiva Tattva.
He's not a demigod. Not a demigod.
He is a demigod. He is Jiva Tattva. He is 110,000. Like generally, how we understand, now suppose there is Pranab Mukherjee. Who's he? I keep forgetting. I always think of that lady who... President. Is President his name? What's his name? It's a post. Brahma is a post.
Keeps changing, you said.
Changes. He has his lifespan, 311 trillion 40 billion years.
Durga
I
is
know.
not a demigod.
No. Shivji and Durga, they are not demigods. They have an eternal profile. Like how these demigods, like in post of Brahma, will change. Shivji doesn't change. He is the same person. His body is transcendental. He doesn't have to give up his body either. Like how Brahma is born, apparently, but he has to give up his body. In fact, he gave up his body when he felt contaminated. He did give up his body and he took a new body. And his body is not gross like ours: earth, water, fire, skin, flesh, blood. It's intelligence. His body made up of only one element of intelligence. I know it's confusing because you've not seen someone like that. Yeah. So we understand who are demigods, what is the position of demigods. We have a whole session of demigods in Journey of Self-Discovery. There are about, these FAQs we went through. Their posts and everything, how it changes. Indra again is not a name of a person, it's a post. After his, a certain amount of years that he lives, he has to he has to give up the post and someone else will occupy that domain, that post. Is that okay? So we understand who are demigods. Now why demigod worship is mentioned in the Vedas? if Krishna is saying people who have less intelligence, the intelligence stolen by material desires, and eventually I am only giving the gifts that they get from demigods, and what else is he saying? The fourth point? It's temporary and limited. Yeah, I give the faith and I also give, forget about faith, even the gifts that you get from demigods is from Krishna. And then they are limited and temporary because their post itself is temporary. How will they eternally take care of us? And why is Krishna calling it limited and temporary? For example, you have a child and your child has worms in his stomach. He asks you for chocolate. Would you give? Sure. What will happen if you give? He's crying and he's very stubborn about it. Still, it's going to be bad. The same child goes to the neighbor and cries and is very stubborn for a chocolate. What will the neighbor do? Give it. Because the neighbor doesn't know that this child has worms. It's bad. The same thing is between Krishna and the demigods. Krishna will not give you something which you don't need, or it's going to be bad for you. Whereas the demigods, they don't know. When somebody is very stubborn, same case happened to Hiranyakashipu, Ravan. Why they don't worship Krishna? So much tapasya they'll do and they don't worship Krishna. They don't worship Vishnu because they know we are not going to get it. They worship Brahma, they worship Shiva, they worship some other demigod. And then they get these powers, and that same demigod has to run to Krishna for protection.
You said Shiva is not demigod.
I'm just saying that he still is not our parent. He doesn't know our past, present, future, as Krishna knows, because he's sitting in our heart. Yeah? So here we understand why Krishna is saying that intelligence stolen by material desires. Can we go back to the first verse? Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Now here it's mentioned in the Vedas because everyone doesn't surrender to Krishna. So Krishna has given a facility of worshipping demigods. For those who cannot understand Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or is simply unwilling to surrender unto Him because of too many material attachments and too many material wants. So what does he do? He conducts a sacrifice for demigods. Any sacrifice or any prayer to the demigods. Such people are encouraged to accept some authority in the Vedas. Rather than not having any authority and behaving sinfully, they are given some freedom or some mode of worship. Because when they worship the demigod, what happens? There is some amount of sacrifice that they do. At least for that they will get some benefit, and in the next life or in the same life they will elevate themselves. There is some hope. Imagine if what happens when a particular state bans liquor, totally bans. What happens? Think.
What is it? Not everybody is drinking.
Not everybody is singing, but there are types of people. And then there will be liquor selling in black. There will be so many underground activities going on at the back of the government. So what does the government do? Sell it at very high tax.
So that the normal.
So that whatever is happening, it will be limited. So that's why in Vedas there is a facility of demigod worship. We'll be discussing that, how it is in three modes. I've mentioned this particular point, three modes of material nature. In Vedas there are demigods who can be worshipped for people more in mode of goodness, those who can worship in mode of passion and mode of ignorance. We'll discuss that next Tuesday. We have to chant one small round and then we'll start 24 onwards.
So basically we should worship demigods or not?
You tell me. When you're getting limited and temporary fruits, as compared to someone who's going to give you.
You should or you should not?
He just said, he just said that even if you get something, it's going to be temporary and it might not be good for you. So that doesn't mean that are a demigod. No, we give them our respect, and if we want something, we ask from Krishna. That's why first he says, whatever you want, you come to me, you're pious. When you go to the demigods, it's only agony. Because they won't understand what is good for you, what is not for you. They'll give you whatever you want. Eventually, in the long run, it's going to be bad. So we chant one round, and those who want to go for darshan can go. And then Prabhuji will be here in the next 10 minutes.
Round person, then go.
Yeah.
Yeah, then.